I was telling Tanya, January is the beginning of the year where we make a lot of resolutions. And, we are about the second or third week in. And how many of us have actually kept those resolutions? Most of us buy, your membership at gyms and, promise yourself to do this, that, and the other. But very soon it kind of fizzles away within a few weeks or a few months. So I had the privilege of bumping into a professor of psychology at Stanford, about 10 years ago. His name is B.J. Fogg, Fogg. And he has a process of what he calls tiny habits. So whatever I'm going to be talking to you about creating tiny habits, I owe it to him. So what is this about? So very briefly, we use some kind of passion to drive what we want to do, but passion is short lived. you know so how do we create a habit that sticks? Say for example, let's say we want to eat healthy. Okay, we want to, instead of snacking on cookies and candy, we promise ourselves, we're going to keep that away and we're going to eat something healthy. So what do you do? So Dr. BJ Fogg has about 3 steps in this whole process. And it's very simple. Anybody can follow this at any time. It just requires a little bit of thought and some mindfulness. So for example, let's say, if I'm hungry, instead of reaching out to a snack, made of cookies or whatever, or ice cream, I want to get a bite of an apple. So what do you do? So any thought, any action is preceded by some kind of a trigger. Something happens that's already built in. Say, for example, we wake up in the morning, we go to the bathroom. Okay? We go to the bathroom, we brush our teeth. So that's all kind of automated. So for a habit to stick, it has to be automated. So how do you make that automation happen? And each of us have our own little habits. Okay. So we take a shower, we apply the soap, right? One thing follows the other. So while the water is going in from the faucet on your head, you're reaching out to the soap. So it's a follow up action. You don't think about it, you just reach out for it. So the first step is to look at a trigger that is associated with that particular behavior that you want to create. For example, you can say, okay, whenever I take a drink of water, I'm going to take a bite of an apple. Simple. So you associate something that is available within the vicinity and at the same time. So if you have an apple right next to your glass of water, and you say, okay, I'm taking a sip of water, and I'm going to follow that up with a bite of apple. And this is very, very simple. So if you want to get into the habit of healthy eating, just say, okay, every time I drink, so you have an apple right next to, wherever you go to reach out for your water, whether it's in the refrigerator or on the counter, wherever. So if you take that bite of apple, the moment you do that, you celebrate. Very tiny celebration. Give yourself, whatever, or it's a self hug or whatever, but just make it feel good. So 3 factors. Number one, trigger, the new behavior, and celebration. Simple. Okay. So the new behavior should be very, very, very small, very tiny. Don't make it too big and don't make it too complicated. It has to be very simple. I'll just take one bite of an apple. That's it. Okay. Even if it's a tiny bite, it doesn't matter. So what you're trying to do is link up drinking water with the bite of an apple. So the mind automatically associates drinking water with taking a bite of an apple. And that follows up with a celebration. So if you continue with this process for a good 5 days to 7 days, it becomes automatic. It becomes automatic. So people say it takes about 21 days to create a new habit. Well, if you can succeed by doing this over a 7 day period, chances are very, very unlikely that you're going to go back and just drink the water alone and not follow it up with a bite of apple. So once you have a bite of apple, then you can use that as the trigger to do something else. You see how you can link this up? Okay. So if you take a bite of an apple, you can say, I want to do something healthier right after that. Okay. So the opportunities are limitless in whatever you want to do. Okay. So if you are, figuring out how to lose weight, and you say, okay, I'm going to run, 10 miles starting today to lose weight, and I'm going to starve, chances are you're going to quit that within, a couple of days. Your body just doesn't, it just gives up. I'll give you one concrete example of how I created a new habit. So I wanted to go swimming every morning. So what I did was, you know, woke up in the morning, and right away, my pool is right connected to my bedroom. I would just step out right out of the bed and jump into the pool. So waking up was a trigger to jump into the pool. And I started off by jumping into the pool and getting out of it immediately. Like, forget about everything else. I just wanted the mind not to freak out, saying, oh my God, this requires a lot of preparation. I need to be there for 5 minutes. None of that. Just jump in and jump out. And I would celebrate. Now it's a habit for me, whether it's raining, whether it's 10 degrees or 60 degrees outside, I still have that habit. It's just built in. In fact, I feel awful if I don't do that. So when I jump into the cold water every morning, that shifts my whole mind the whole day, which means I'm able to control my mind. My mind is not controlling me. So I've taken charge right away. So that's one little trick that I found. So let's take another example. Let's say if somebody, one of the big issues is flossing. Okay. Flossing teeth every morning. People think it's a pain. People ignore it. They step out of a dentist's office and they're busy flossing, for a day or two. And after that, it just turns out to be too much of a pain. So what do you do about it? So the trigger would be brushing your teeth. Okay. Have your flossing threads all cut up and ready to go right next to your toothbrush. The moment you put down the toothbrush, take the floss thread and floss just one tooth and put it aside. That's how you start that habit. And then you celebrate. Hey, you've done something. Now, very gradually, what would happen is the mind sound, to the mind, it sounds silly to just floss one tooth. So you start flossing two teeth. And very soon, it just becomes part of the brushing habit. You see? So now you're busy, flossing all teeth. You can do it once a day, twice a day, whatever. But you got to associate with a trigger that is both in proximity to time and space. That is the key. You can't have a trigger in one place and disconnect that to the new habit, miles away. That's not going to happen. So you got to somehow connect. So again, be creative, figure out what works for you. Say, for example, if you want to lift weights, okay, don't decide on lifting up 100 pounds right away. You know what? Say, okay, I'm going to step out into the whatever, into your gym, and into your home gym, and say, okay, I'm going to lift up a 10-pound weight for 5 seconds, 10 seconds. That's it. Start that habit. Don't push yourself day one, because the mind will freak out and will make you quit. But if you start off this way, using very simple techniques, you are flying under the radar of your monkey mind. You're flying under the radar, so the monkey mind is relaxing. It's not putting a stop to it. And that's how you create a new habit. So does it make sense? Response?
No, it does actually, but I always thought I was always told it takes 21 days. But you're right. If you just do something, it becomes subconscious level thinking, just like brushing your teeth and going to the bathroom. You're subconsciously not thinking about it because you're just doing it because it's a habit. So I see where you're coming about you jumping in the swimming pool early in the morning, and that's how you got your healthy habit going. So yeah, that totally work. And you're right. It takes one. Just do it, right? As they say in the Nike commercial, just